Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing number 39 in Forgiveness to Love. And the title of this one is The Setups, the Sabotage, and the Seduction. And we're finally getting to it because we ended 38 without having gone into this area. So, anyway, I just thought I'd tell you that, while living in Florida, whether it was at the gym, an office, restaurants, shops, or even checkout lines, I saw men in my life being set up to cheat. And so I know it sounds rather bizarre, but all you have to do is just talk to some PIs who arrange for women in skin tight clothes, with breasts hanging out, to just happen to show up where you are and want to be your new best friend, together with with your significant other. And I can assure you, they don't want to talk to your significant other and tell him how fabulous and gorgeous you are. No, that's not the point. But rather, it's really to destroy your relationship and your home and your happiness. And, you're on someone's list if that happens. And so it's really up to you to figure out just whose list you are on. And, again, the word conspiracy keeps cropping up. But here's the definition, and it's not so spooky or crazy as we're led to believe, because conspiracy is defined as an unlawful, harmful, or an evil plan to commit crimes. And the synonyms to conspiracy are treachery and trickery. And so, haven't we all experienced that? I mean, I don't know who hasn't, and that was right up my alley, because I actually can't think of anyone who hasn't tried to trick me, right? And so, here's a story for you, and this is just an example of what I have seen countless and countless times. I mean, my gosh. Anyway, when I lived on Clearwater Beach, a guy friend and I had been to a shop. I think I was having some, I don't know. I went to pick up something anyway, and a woman who worked there gave him her card and her phone number. And so one night we were dining at a restaurant, and suddenly we heard this young girl yell, "Mom, you're so beautiful." And so everyone, of course, looked up, and we saw this woman who was exiting through the back door or whatever, and she yelled back, "Oh my goodness, I'm gonna cry. I love you so much. Thank you." And so, we all thought, "Oh, that's really sweet." And they kind of stole the show. But anyway, the next day, the guy that I had been with told me he met her after he had dropped me off. She was just my friend. And her husband was traveling. And so you know the rest, right? But you see, that's how darkness works. It sounds so silly and so innocent, yet there's always an ulterior motive. Things don't just happen like that, right? And yet it was such a well thought out and devised plan that it worked just perfectly. It worked exactly how it was intended to work, right? And I've actually had other male friends who've cheated on their wives, and their wives ended up divorcing them. But eventually, the men realized that they had turned down some business deal, or someone had offered them something, and they knew it just wasn't. It wasn't kosher, or wasn't, above board. And so they turned it down. Well, actually, they were actually seduced then. They were set up to be seduced by women. And then their wives were given the texts and the pictures of them, and so that she'd leave the marriage, right? So I know this sounds so crazy, and you think, oh no, this just can't really be happening. But it is. It's a conspiracy, and it's just an unlawful plan to allow people to commit a crime, right? And so anyway, I remember one guy told me, he said, I always heard the expression, but I never believed it, where it says, if the devil can't get you, he'll send you a woman. Or you could say he sends you a man, whatever the case may be. Anyway, it's kind of like when friends or relatives or even your significant other are found double dealing, right? And talking about you behind your back. So whether they take off their clothes or not, it's still betrayal, right? Because betrayal occurs when someone you know, someone you love, and someone you trust, right? When that's the only time betrayal can happen. You have to have those three components to it. You have to know the person, you have to love the person, you have to trust the person. And then when they betray you, when they go against you, when they do something that really hurts you, then it's betrayal because you actually trusted them, right? And so anyway, the bottom line there is then you realize it's time to move on. And I know it seems like, well, that happens quite a bit, and so what, we just keep moving on and on and on. But we really are like those game pieces on the puzzle, on the board game of life, where if we don't learn our lesson, then we will come up to that space again, and it'll be maybe different people, but it'll be basically the same underlying theme. And so I did learn later, that actually sibling was involved in setting up this friend of mine who ended up, being going off with that woman. Anyway, and what's interesting about that is that guy ended up working with sibling, and so I guess they got together, and he actually kind of crazy stalked me and even sued me. And I filed 3 orders of protection against him. Anyway, for me, I realized that there was no one I could trust. No, there really wasn't. And I'm so saddened to even say this, and I'm even more saddened to know that it's true, or it was true then. And my guess is that, at some point in our lives, we look back and we wonder if in fact that's the case. It seems like people are so self-absorbed, and so they don't really care about relationships that much. It's more about, well, what can we get from the other person? And I know it seems like we live in the twilight zone, but actually this is the twilight zone, also known as life on planet Earth, when we deal with negative energy. And so for those of you who say, oh my gosh, I have the very bestest friend and she would never turn on me, just like we would never turn on our friends. Well, some of you have been lucky enough to find those people who love you unconditionally. And those are the people that we must hold on to and cherish and show our appreciation and our gratitude, because they are few and far between. And so as I think we shed the old, and that we embrace the new, and that we realize how important it is to be trustworthy and authentic and kind and loyal, as we learn how important those attributes are and those behaviors are to others, then then we embody that. And so we don't take that for granted from anyone. But when we do find it, we're just so excited that that we are so lucky to have somebody like that in our life. And so, whether it's a family member or not, surely in my family, I realized that some of them had lost their minds. And it almost seemed like with the double dealing, it almost seemed like it was Linda Blair in The Exorcist, the movie. I never saw it because when I was in college, and I think I was at a Northwestern frat party or something, and it was The Exorcist had just come out, and there were these big football players, and they were saying, oh my gosh, I saw that movie and I haven't slept in a week. Well, that was enough for me. I wasn't going to see it anyway. But and maybe someday I'll share some stories with you that you won't believe, because I actually met an exorcist at a Greek church in Arizona, and he needed some help. And of course, I needed a place to stay, right? I was going from one family to another, trying to get my inheritance and trying to get my money and trying to get a job and trying to stabilize myself. But anyway, so I ended up staying with him and learning so much from him. I mean, we actually made a pretty good team, because he needed help when he was doing his exorcisms and stuff, and he needed me to pray and things like that. So anyway, I did learn a lot from him. And So anyway, I do have some pretty interesting stories about that because I never wanted anything to do with that kind of stuff. Anyway, and so, um, what else can I tell you? Some dark individuals, yes, are enshrouded in darkness, and some dark individuals, are really plagued by mental illness. At the same time, I remember reading a quote, and it was something like, yes, a lot of people are mentally ill, but they don't go around um, pummeling people in their lives, and that's true because evil is really what we're most concerned about, because the dark really has no mercy, and so that's what we are trying to break free of, and cleanse and purge ourselves and stay away from people, in dark individuals who really are what motivated or are hell-bent on really destroying us. And that's not what we want in our lives. And so we don't want to even think about that and focus on that, because we don't want to attract that. What we need to know is to free ourselves of it, and not to entertain that in our lives at all. And so, many people may seem perfectly normal on the surface, and yet they have some deep-seated issues of hatred, anger, and vengeance. Along with, some people have actually sold their souls, right, to the darkness. And so these are the people that, as children, I spoke with a therapist at length about this, because I wanted to learn more in terms of my own family and things like that, and what were the telltale signs, and when should I have realized that there was an issue. I know my father had mentioned to my mother when my sister was 12 that she needed some mental health help, which apparently she didn't get. But there are children who rip wings off butterflies, or who dismember frogs and things like that, and those are telltale signs of I don't know if it's evil spirits, or if it's just really some deep psychopathology, and it could be that they've come into this life with some of those issues. But kids who from a young age do dark rituals, or they play with Ouija boards, which I had never really known to be so diabolical, but apparently a lot of people have had real issues with those. But I used to hear about them a lot when I was a child. But anyway, or people that do spells, or curses, or evil eyes, or even bizarre chants and things like that. The most I had heard of in terms of magic was like what Samantha on Bewitched, and she would wrinkle her nose, and so I guess she was classified as a witch. But I mean, I always thought that was kind of cute, because she was like a good witch, right? But the bad witches are the ones that hurt and harm, and that's the key, because why would anyone want to hurt another? And I've never understood that, truly, and I don't think I ever will understand why someone would kind of rejoice or gloat in someone else's pain. To me, it's just simply incomprehensible. And be it for greed, or for power, or for control, it's absolutely obscene as far as I'm concerned. And I have been told, that my family does pay others, to do things, and that they've even contacted witches and warlocks. And I didn't even know that there really was somebody as a warlock. I just thought that, again, was fiction on television. But yeah. They are out there, and I'm sure that some are in integrity. I don't know, so I wouldn't really know one way or another. But I've heard about, I'm gonna sneeze, I think. What's the message there? Anyway, I've heard about their beauty spells to give us wrinkles and cellulite, and hair to fall out. And I know that my family has been involved in some of that stuff. So I guess they want my hair to fall out and cellulite and wrinkles. I don't know. But remember, all that stuff goes back on the person who's sending it. And there are things called health spells, which are for heart attacks and cancer and arthritis and even accidents, I guess. And then there are breakup spells that people actually send. I mean, it's just crazy. And they send spells to take our partners from us, right? To break us up. And then they actually send love spells to our partner so that they become bound to the person sending the spell, or to the dark person, right? If they can't get a man, they will send a love spell to kind of attract him to them. I just had no idea. Anyway, this stuff actually exists, for what I'm told. And so anyway, forewarned is forearmed. And so I'm just telling you that this stuff does exist. And remember, we are in a spiritual battle right now. As hard as that may sound, as difficult as that may be to believe, we truly are in a spiritual battle. And we're fighting it, whether we realize it or not. And all we have to do is just look and see what's going on in the world, because everything that happens in the physical world has already happened in the spiritual realm. And so many people are so lost that they fall prey to the darkness, right? And so the ego wants human beings to look outside themselves. And I talked about that in 38, the video I just did, to look outside themselves and to think that they're better than you are, right? And so then that kind of breeds envy and jealousy and hate, right? And anger. And it almost gives them a license to lie and cheat and steal, and forge and perjure and even murder. And so I must tell you that twice last week, 2 different men knocked on the door here in the morning, and it didn't feel right. And this was just after I had heard that that my family was paying people to come and hurt me, and worse. And so when there was no answer, the first gentleman left, and he was a, reasonably dressed, well-dressed, I don't know, I only saw him from the back, white male. And then the other guy that came a few days later showed up, and he was very tall and kind of lanky, kind of like almost a basketball player, and he was a black male, and he was wearing orange or something, what I could tell through the windows, and or peach or something. And he was claiming, when my friend actually opened the door for that one, and so he claimed he was looking for a woman walking a dog because she wanted him to come and wash his car. Anyway, I guess he started to argue with my friend, and then he got in his car that was parked across the street, a black car, and left. But so the question remains, what can we possibly do? Well, I called the sheriff's department, but sometimes when our family or others want to portray us as delusional in some way, and want our concerns to be dismissed, and want us to seem as if we are, hysterical, or we're delusional, right? That's the word that I had heard she uses. I'm delusional, and that all of this stuff that's happening isn't really happening. It's just in my mind. Because she certainly wouldn't want to take any responsibility or accountability for doing the crazy things that she does. And so they actually so the sheriff's department basically seemed relatively unfazed, and they didn't even want to come to the door, and they just said, well, there's nothing wrong with people coming to your door, that early in the morning anyway. And yet, I remember when I first arrived in Tampa, and I had come here, in order to uncover information regarding my inheritance and my parents' deaths. And so I remember as soon as I got to a hotel, there were terror calls, and one was from Vietnam, and then another one was some guy was on the phone, and he said, "Okay, well, I'm going to tell them to come and get you now." And I thought that was so creepy. And I remember I thought, oh, I'm going to have problems here. And my sibling is onto it already. She's trying to terrify me. And so I actually called the sheriff's department, and they came there. They came, and I told them what I had experienced, and I thought that was kind of weird. That was the way I was welcomed into Tampa, being told that, yes, I was in Vietnam, a war zone, basically. And so, Maria, what the hell are you doing here? Just go back. Because, you know, we're going to fight if you're here. So anyway, and I wasn't interested in fighting. I came here for the truth. Anyway, the deputy there, when he came in, he said, "Do you know what Baker acting is?" I said, "I think so." And Baker acting is an involuntary commitment that is initiated by family. And generally, the family can either say that, oh, this person needs to be put under observation for a while because they're a danger to them, or they're a danger to themselves. And so that's one way that really malevolent and malicious people can try to really destroy people that are telling the truth. And so I don't think that there's anything that sibling and my son wouldn't do, especially after I saw them kill both my parents in cold blood. There is nothing that I think is beyond their level of evil. But you know, and of course, you know, they locked me out of my home and closed all my accounts and left me with nothing. But that, you know, that again, that's greed, and that's you know, like this obsession that I talked about in 38 with the hoarding and wanting things because there's so little inside, you know, and so you have to be surrounded by all of these things in order to feel valuable at all, in order to feel worthy at all. Because without those things, you don't feel like you are anything. And yet that's the total opposite of what we are, and what we are here to embody the energy of, you know, of our consciousness, and to embody the goodness and the kindness and the gratitude and all the wonderful aspects of being human here on this planet. And so all I can say is that, you know, the darkness rebounds back to the sender. And so don't worry about that. And I guess for me, it's a matter of just not dabbling in things that can adversely affect another, because they do turn back on us, as well they should, because everything we do, you know, we are free to do whatever it is we want to do here on this planet, right? No one can tell us otherwise. We can do it, and we are free to do it. And yet we are not free of the consequences. And I just think that that's, you know, like a brilliant notion. That's like a light bulb moment when we realize that. Because, yes, we can go out and we can, you know, eat. You know, we can hoard, we can drink, we can do drugs, we can do anything that if we so choose to do, we do it. And yet we're not free of the consequences of that behavior. So whether it destroys our bodies, or whether it, you know, people get arrested for doing that stuff, or whether, you know, people end up with diabetes, or you know, gain 300 pounds or whatever from eating things that aren't nutritious for them. So yes, we can sit and eat, you know, 3 chocolate cakes if we want, but the consequences are that we will get sick ultimately, you know, that it's just not good for us. So yes, we have free will while on this planet, but we are not free of the consequences of exercising that free will. And so when we're here, we know that we are divinity expressed, right, through us. And so the divine we are vehicles for the divine. We hold the divine within us. There is a spark of the divine within each and every human being here, within each and every living creature here, right? And be it plant or animal. And so we can overcome this. We can overcome anything that happens to us if we just remember who we are and how much of a gift we are to ourselves and to those around us when we live a life of authenticity and kindness and love and service and all of that. And so we realize that we couldn't imagine lowering ourselves to engage in the lunacy that we, have experienced sometimes within the confines of our own family, when they just are so hateful and jealous. And so it's really sad. I just couldn't even imagine living in that body or having those thoughts that they have. I couldn't imagine it, not for 10 seconds, not for 1 second. Actually, it would just be too dark and too painful, actually, because when you look at something beautiful, when you look at a puppy or you look at a giraffe or you look at a beautiful plant or you look at a tree or a sunset or the ocean, I mean, you're just filled with all of this gratitude and this love for everything around you. But if everything you see is dark and ominous and suspicious and evil, then and what can you get from them? Then what kind of a life is that? Anyway, we know that light illuminates the darkness, right? And so God and truth win over all other energies and entities. And it's positivity that wins, it's gratitude that wins, it's kindness that wins, and it's serving others that wins. And so, above all, like the name of our video series is, it's forgiveness to love. And so when we forgive ourselves for even having participated in this and not having seen the bigger picture, and so we were kind of absorbed in the negativity for way too long, and some of us have to forgive ourselves for that. And then when we do that, then we can open the floodgates such that we can love, and we can love ourselves more, and then we can extend that love to others. And so there's so much more I want to share with you, but right now, let's connect in the next video, number 40, where we'll explore more about this ride of a lifetime that we're all on here as we've incarnated here on planet Earth. And so I wish you a beautiful evening, and I thank you for being here, and I love you.